wall signs for the actual buildings, for whether it's the mixed-use building itself, which would be located up in this area near the intersection of Germantown Road and Sugar, would be limited to the 75-foot maximum, 1 square foot per 1 linear foot of wall space that the ordinance prescribes. However, the policy does provide that the DRC can grant up to 100 square feet of sign area if an application is out for additional sign area. The next sign that the applicant is asking for, this is the wall sign, is a hanging blaze sign. The sign here we are asking to limit to a 9 square foot sign, which is 3 by 3. The text on all signs, including the wall signs, will be an alabaster white, which conforms to the existing signs that you approved for Newt or Hampton Inn in the center. The next sign is a sandwich board sign that the applicant is asking for. The sandwich board sign is limited to 5 square feet. The height of the sign would be 42 inches and the width of the sign would be 30 inches. This sign would be limited to the deck only, which is the interior of the market facility. And those are the majority of the changes that we're asking for. Again, I will say, when you saw this as subcommittee, there was a request for project directory signs and project direction signs. We have asked that those signs be dropped at this time because additional detail of design information needs will come before we can recommend approval of those. The applicant has agreed to that, so you're only looking at the signs that are done over to that. Again, the approval of this sign policy requires you to approve it once as part of the approval. Have you answered any questions?
Thank you. So we will take a first vote on the sign policy in and of itself, and then have it go on the second vote. Very good. So first meeting, I guess, with the sign policy itself. Do any commissioners have any questions? Comments that I can make? Mr. Chair.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair. The only thing that I remember about the last sign that was shown, is that sign will be taken in the evening time. It won't be left on the sidewalk. Is that correct? The sandwich board?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
And on the, this is Robert Sloan, on the blade sign, did we identify where those would be installed on the building?
The hanging blaze signs will only be installed within the parking deck, in the interior of the parking deck.
Okay.
So how many signs each tenant get?
Each tenant is allowed 1 hanging blaze sign and 1 sandwich board sign. They are allowed 2 wall signs because most of these tenants will have double frontage. They will have frontage on a public street, and then they will have frontage within the parking deck. One. Okay, I'm not sure exactly. Are you asking would each tenant be allowed only 1 wall sign on the, depending on the amount of frontage they have? Yes. On the facade itself, yes.
As far as the building identification sign, what specifically is this policy approving for that?
The policy for this, it is approving the maximum square footage for that type of sign would be 75 square feet. It is approving the color, which would be the alabaster white. So it's basically you would be looking at a sign very similar to what you would approve under the Section 14 of the sign code.
Okay, and I would assume this would, I mean, that would be like, just to say Thornwood Market Row, or in that case, you would be identifying the actual development?
Yes, the development itself. Correct.
Okay.
You're right, I'm sorry. I apologize. That is bronze. It is a bronze sign, not a white sign. And so that needs to be added to the policy. So if we could amend the policy to add that information into here. Thank you.
So the building identification sign would be bronze?
Would be bronze, and the tenant signs would be alabaster white.
Okay. Can you go back and show me where that would actually be? And would it occur more than once? Okay.
It would be, thank you. If you were looking at the end of the building, if you were looking at the end of the building at Germantown Road and Michelle, that elevation that you see there would be for the building sign.
Would then the sign policy reflect this sign individually as the building identification sign, or? So there could only be one, it would be of this. That would be how it would be stated within the sign policy for the amendment. I'm just trying to understand how it would be referred to in the sign policy.
The sign policy, there is a section, item number H. It talks about project building identification signs. We will add into that section that the color of the sign should be bronze.
What about logo? If, is there anything there in the policy regarding the logo?
Sorry?
Regarding the logo, if a tenant wants to have a logo, is there anything in the policy?
Yes, there is, in the policy, as in most policies, logos of national, regional, or local company or branding that are in accordance with the City of Germantown sign ordinance could be approved administratively.
Any further discussion from any of the commissioners or staff? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion for the sign policy.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the sign policy.
Second.
As amended.
Yes, as amended.
Very well then. Please call roll.
Mr. Sloan?
Yes.
Mr. Lacy?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt? Yes. Mr. Gibson?
Yes.
Alderman Owens?
Yes.
Mr. Kumar?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Chairman Bruns?
Yes. Sign policy is approved with approval of the warrant, which we can now discuss based on the sign policy that was just presented. This will be a warrant, I believe it was 275. I'm sorry, I don't have it in front of me. The specific,
Article 7, Division 8, if you read the motion, it's included.
we feel free to discuss the warrant if we'd like, or anyone could propose a motion, certainly.
Motion to vote on proposed, I'm going to say this incorrectly. Article proposed motion 1. And if I said it incorrectly, please jump in.
I would like the motion to include some verbiage on the intent of the warrant. If someone would please include that for me and amend the presented motion.
Mr. Chairman, do we want to, I guess, approve, make a vote to approve the warrant, and then in our voting, we explain the rationale for voting that way? Would that be appropriate?
Exactly.
Okay.
Whether in the motion or with the reason for the motion, yes, please, with the vote.
Okay, so I would make a motion to approve a warrant from Article 7, Division 8 of the zoning ordinance to allow the sign approval as prescribed by the sign policy of Thornwood Plan Development. And I'll say my vote is based on the good principles of uniformity and architecture and sound urban design, as well as principles of good land use planning. Those are the justifications for my approval of the warrant. Did I say that wrong?
No. Can we clarify who made the motion and who made the second?
As of right now, Alderman Owens is either modified a motion or introduced a motion on top of a motion, if I heard it correctly.
Okay, so we need a second to the motion before he votes.
Or did you formally present a motion?
I think Robert did, so if we could amend his motion or retract your motion, and I'll say my motion.
I would like to retract my motion for the audience.
Second.
Now I will entertain Alderman Owens' motion for a second.
Yeah, for the reasons that I stated previously, do you need me to restate them?
Second.
We officially have a second. And then in calling your vote, please reiterate why you have come to the decision you have.
Mr. Kumar?
Yes, and I agree with Alderman Owens with the approval of warrant.
Mr. Gibson?
I agree with Alderman Owens' warrant request. I think it's appropriate in this setting for the type of development for this type of sign policy to be in effect.
Mr. Sloan?
Yes, I do agree with the rest of the board and the uniformity and the need for the amendment.
Mr. Lacy?
Yes, and I believe that this follows the intent of the original sign policy, and agree with Alderman Owens as well.
Mr. White?
My vote's yes, and I believe it is consistent with the intent of smart growth and adheres to the principles therein.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes, for all the reasons stated prior.
Alderman Owens? You already did that. Chairman Bruns?
My vote is also yes, for all reasons stated before. The intent of the sign policy is in keeping with smart code.
Okay.
I know I made the motion, but
Yes. Do what? Oh, did you vote? You didn't vote.
I made the motion, but I vote yes for the reasons stated previously.
Yes. Okay. Sorry.
It does make all of us. So the warrant does pass, as does the science policy. Oh, you did. Okay, very good. That is our last agenda item. I'd like to thank staff for all the work put forth and the applicant to bring that to us. And certainly, we make it look simple, but I know there's a ton of work that has been done to come to this, so thank you. All love you.
Thank y'all very much.
Yeah. Thank you. Is there any old business or new business before us?
Just, if I could, talk to you a little bit about, last night, we had the board approve the project development contract for our wireless transmission facility on Madonna Day Center. There was a little bit of discussion about the monopine versus monopole, and as some of the members may recall, we had that same debate here, and a motion was made to approve it as a monopine, but that was not approved, and so we kept, as was approved here by this body, as a monopole.
Thank you for sharing that.
That's right, I'm sorry, yes, and yes, thank you very much, Sheila. We did also last night appoint Miss Pat Sherman, former DRC member Neil Sherman's wife, to this body, and she will begin, I guess, at our next monthly meeting. She'll be taking his place.
Wonderful news. Wonderful. We will be glad to see her with us, certainly. Anything further? Very good. We are adjourned.